Greetings, dear viewers, and welcome to part 3 of the Ninja Quest storyline. And part 3 is also the final time we're going to see this opening of Mighty Morphin Power Ranger Season 2 implicated, since this is the last episode to feature the original, featured the Season 2 intro, since next episode starts the Season 3 intro, picking up the speed of what's going on with the show story-wise. Some tidbits I have to share for about season 3, which while I'm recording as of this recording, I did look up some stuff on Ranger Wiki in between the end of recording part 2's commentary and beginning part 3's commentary, that wrapping the, so according to Ranger Wiki about the production on season 3 Mighty Morphin, after wrapping the second season, the cast and crew remained hard at work in order to finish Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. While the movie would not be canon to the show, the Ninja Ranger suits and the Zords would remain on the show and carried over to the show. But then I realized that looking at the quality of season 3, and as much as I still like it, I've come to realize that according to lead writer of the franchise at the time, Tony Oliver, the decision to end Mighty Morphin was made during pre-production of season 3. Because, as this was his words, that he quoted, "We predicted the transition was not going to go smooth, and I want to say it was even worse than that. In a way, it was great because we got to expand the established storytelling formula. I know many fans he talked to would sarcastically call season 3 the multi-parter season. The many multi-part episodes were much a necessity because there was so much ground to cover to get to that 4th season." So I guess that makes sense why, when I think about the Power Rangers fandom, especially during the earlier days of the fandom, they really dismissed season 3 having all of these different multi-part arcs because, well, season 3 was not only that, it was a very difficult season for the cast and crew to shoot because, they wanted to, realizing production costs for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was getting higher at this point. And I think that would explain why the show was getting better with its acting and writing over time, while we still had that camp and cheese to it. But I just think that when they, if the season was this darn hard to produce, and to make and write up, because plus production costs, I can tell that production on MMPR was getting tougher to do, which explains why we had like only 30 episodes of the main Mighty Morphin Rangers and then 10 episodes of the Alien Rangers. We still technically had a 45 or so episode season, 50 episode season, but the 33 episodes that was covered with JDF, Amy, Joe, David, and them, those episodes were shot and knowing they were going to be very expensive, and knowing the Ninja Quest arc was the most expensive one. Oh man, Ninjor was so snarky for the first 2 minutes of his introduction. He wasn't sure if they were the Rangers, but they got the colors of their powers after all, so. He didn't want to believe him at first, so there will be a change of heart based on what we'll hear from our wise White Ranger, leader of the group and all, and what he has to say about that. But I do like Ninjor's temple setup, though. It's very majestic of it. The candle lights, it's just the whole scene. In fact, I've always liked Ninjor. Still 30 years later, he's still one of my favorite side characters in Power Rangers and of the Zordon era. It's kind of sad they had to ditch Ninjor by the time we got to the tail end of the main Mighty Morphin portion of the 3rd season. And then when we get the Alien Rangers, they didn't even have Ninjor with him either. So I was like, well, again, due to that time spell thing by Master Violator. Yeah, that makes sense. So we enter the Angel Grove Junior Police Patrol Department, and oh yeah, they got a wanted Rita Repulsa sign on one shot. Yeah, well, it's gonna be impossible for the police to capture Rita. I figured that's exactly how I would say this is where they got the idea of Rita attacking that one officer in the 2017 Power Rangers movie from. Got it. Sort of. But though I wish that in that movie's universe they could have had and we feature Lieutenant Stone, and speaking of, they could have had a Lieutenant Stone type character in the 2017 movie when Rita was attacking that jewelry shop in the movie. That movie. So more about the pre-production stuff of season 3. Due to this pending change, the third season would be the most difficult season to write up until that point, in which Tony Oliver would elaborate. With the main story already causing its fair share of problems, the production will be dealt another. So yeah, we've had all of that. So to save time and money, unmorphed fight scenes were cut back almost entirely, with much of them being handled by the second unit and the stunt crew in costume, while the first unit and principal cast were shooting other scenes. So yeah, that would explain why, looking back on season 3, Mighty Morphin, they didn't really have much unmorphed fights. And I think they didn't do much unmorphed fights in Zeo either, because there's no way the Zeo, Tommy, Cat, Adam, and them in Zeo would fight the Cogs unmorphed. So they would have to, when they become the Zeo Rangers with the Zeonizer, with their respective Zeonizers, they would, again, during Zeo. Because I've also noticed we haven't had that much unmorphed fights during season 3 or Zeo. So Turbo, we had some unmorphed fights. We did with Piranhatrons, and In Space had a few unmorphed fights with the Quantrons. So yeah, production costs for the show was getting really expensive by this point, and you can tell, haircut montage for Bulk and Skull. Yeah, it's time to get rid of those long locks and make them feel like men, basically, and that's what Stone wanted them to be. and basically, I'll never forget when I had my very first haircut growing up. Oh my god! And that's the type of haircutting that and seeing Skull's hair a little bit trying to resemble Elvis in some places until it's completely buzzed, until Buzz cut it. I've always found the haircut montage with Bulk and Skull pretty funny, and still 30 years later, still funny as hell. Especially when they see that they don't have their long locks of hair anymore, and then they start screaming about it because it's just hilarious. Now they look a lot better without that messy long locks of hair. Vampirus egg, and they're guarding it. First instance of Kaku Ranger footage, which is that door from like the very first episode or so of Kaku. And now we get to a very much majestic change of power for the Rangers, and so like we did in the movie. So here we are with the arms up, like in the circle, like they did in the movie, but again, got to make it different. So this is how they got their ninja suits. Now, in the movie, we know that Dulcia would, take some dust or something to make the fire, and then some effect the Rangers have their ninja suits on them, or Ninjetti in that case. But here you have Ninjor talking about the swift and cunningness of the ninja, and boom, they just got the suits. Now, I don't know why even in the movie, when they had the ninja suits on, they had the colored gloves, but I don't know why they ditched it when during certain portions of their quest to get the great power in the movie. I don't understand. 30 years later, and I still love those Ninja Ranger suits. Still do. And I'm finally glad I got the Ninja figures in the Lightning collection. I got all the Ninja Rangers in Legacy Wars too at the time of this. Man, this is going to be one hell of a year for me to celebrate 30 years of my all-time favorite MMPR season. because it's just something about Kaku Ranger that just ticks, because I just love those Zords. And yes, the Ninja Zords 30 years later are still awesome, and I prefer the Ninja Zords from the TV show more than the ones in the movie, because look, I didn't like the Ninja Zords in the movie were cool to look at, what in terms of how they were animated even when I was a kid, but as I gotten older and now we've made it to 30 years, I didn't really like the CG Ninja Zords or the Ninja Megazord in the movie, because while the filmmakers on the first Power Rangers movie did what they could to make it, like what it was in the Sentai footage, but they had to make sure that the Ninja Zords had to have a distinctively different look to fit the movie's aesthetic, separate from the TV show's aesthetic, because the TV show was going to use Kaku Ranger footage anyway. But that's why I didn't like the movie's Ninja Megazord, because looking at it, it just looked ugly. And now for the Ninja Zord overview, Rocky's Ape Zord actually looks like an ape man with two swords, but his Ape Zord just looks like King Kong, but just uglier. And then Aisha's Bear Zord had the proper colors of yellow and black. Billy's Wolf Zord, well, it had more blue in the movie, but it had a better balance of blue and silver in the show. And Kimberly's Crane Zord, well, in the movie, pink neck, TV show red neck, because again, Kaku Ranger, there was no pink ranger. It was just the white ranger, who was a girl. And she was the leader of the group. Now, it's funny to see Adam with the frog in the movie, but in the TV show, oh, screw that. I'm proud to be the frog ninja. Who cares? And it makes sense to give Tommy the Falcon Zord. He would eventually get another bird themed Zord later in Zeo, the Zeo 5 Zord, that forms the head of the Zeo Megazord. One of these days, I'm going to cosplay as a Ninjetti Ranger. Don't you worry about that, folks. Because at this time, by 2027, once I'm no longer collecting any more Power Ranger toys anymore, I'm going to start doing more cosplay than ever before. Don't you worry. And then here's the roll call of their ape, the ape, mighty and strong. Yep, for Rocky. And then Aisha, cunning and fierce. Billy, silent and sure. Kimberly, agile and graceful. Adam is courageous as spirit frog. And then Tommy's. I just love joking about the just enable, but just like, okay, why couldn't he say something else? Just enable. And I'll never forget the joke that me and my brother would make about this. Like, do we know anybody named Justin Abel? Like, oh God, rest in peace, Austin. Then we get the training montage of Bulk and Skull with these junior patrol cadets in training. And we have Shape It Up, Bulk and Skull, because Lieutenant Stone wants to be hard on their asses. Because again, this is a good introduction to Lieutenant Stone, because he's supposed to be a hard ass lieutenant of this patrol, this police patrol for young people. Yeah, I would do anything if I was a lieutenant in a boot camp and stuff. I would tell people in lazy slouches like that too. I figured this is where somewhat how they got Eddie Murphy doing that in The Nutty Professor, and with S. Sherman Clump, where he couldn't even do no jump, pushing, jumping jacks and all that in that montage. Okay, the Ninja Ranger hoods it makes sense. The TV show, we have to fully mask the Rangers. Because the movie kind of did give their faces away a little too much when they were in the with the masks on for their Ninjetti forms. So the TV show, we got to fully fully mask their faces with those ninja masks, fully covered, so we don't see their faces. Kind of makes me wonder why the heck during the early filming of the movie, why did they had like the visors and the mouthpieces removed so they could see their faces to show some emotions under those helmets? I don't know. I don't even want to ask. Yeah, when they went into the ninja forms, I do like the fact that it's an alternate morph form since they're not in their old Mighty Morphin suits yet. But I do like the way how they move quick and swift because it's supposed to be like that, and kind of make me wish they should have had these kind of scenes like this in the movie. But I mean, because the difficulty of when they had the ranger suits in the movie, the ninja suits are at least cloth, because at least with the cloth suits, well, even though half of the time can't even tell if this is actually the main cast or not doing their own stunts in the ninja suits. Half of the time it could be the stunt team and the main, and also the suit acting cast doing the ninja ranger fights, because half of the time it's not really the main cast in those ninja suits sometimes, depending on who's in them. And well, of course they would voice them over during ADR and everything. And like I was saying, I mean, they did some I did like when they had the fight with the gatekeepers in the movie. I mean, that was an interesting fight in the ninja suits. But here, this is when they had to fend off against the Tengas, because yeah, these suits were going to, the ninja suits, and I think the way how they were going to implicate the ninja ranger powers being stronger, but they wasn't. I mean, yeah, they may be strong to face off the threat, but as time progresses, um, well, then again, Mighty Morphin was on his last legs at this point, and the powers weren't getting any stronger. They just needed a power boost out of these suits. And man, the Ninja Ranger powers must have some type of residual energy to make them somewhat temporarily strong, but not as strong as they used to be when they had their original powers. I don't even think the ninja powers are supposed to be or even that strong anyway. That's why when we get later into this half of the fourth season, the Zeo crystal is supposed to make the Rangers stronger than before, because that's why Zeo Zeo implicates that the powers are getting stronger, and the Power Rangers are getting stronger every chance they fight forces of evil. The Mighty Morphin ninja powers are kind of strong, but not as strong as like I said, their original powers. I do like the suits. I like how they move in those powers, but they just are. It's just temporarily enough to deal with Rito and whoever later on. Oh yeah, and also I have to notice about Zordon's voice filter change. His voice started, if you go back to A Friend in Need, throughout most of season 3, Zordon's voice is higher pitched than before. I mean, I don't know what was going on during the editing or ADR department on the editing of, the recording for Zordon, but whatever it was, something was going on, and maybe they amplified his voice to be too high pitched, and some other filtering with it. Yeah, where was that in the movie? And how they defeated the Tangas, but instead of having Dulcia, a half-naked Amazonian-looking woman, saving the Rangers from those things, they defeated the Tangas for the first time, and they actually did it. You don't even want to go there making a joke about Tommy as the White Ninja Ranger and him looking like don't even go there. Not even in the comment section. So with their new powers, they do go back into their original Ranger suits, but this time with a new roll call like Pink Ranger Power and Red Ranger Power and Black Ranger Power. But again, it is kind of weird to hear Tommy say White Ranger Power. And yeah, I do like the fact that we're back to their original suits one last time for one more season. And, of course, even with their new ninja powers and ninja animals, of course, they didn't have the budget, and I think, again, due to budget constraints, they could not be able to alternate the helmets to, reflect on their new animals. They couldn't do that even in season 2 because, well, when they had the Thunderzords, there was no way they could do it then. So, well, that's no excuse. So actually, I'd still like part 3 for what it was worth, because they finally get their new powers. They're back to their old suits, but with tied to the new Zords, And then we get to the fourth and last chapter of the arc. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, starting with season 3 until the end of Power Rangers in Space, we would get bloopers or deleted scenes that was cut during the end credits.